Some seasons of life don't come with a crisis, just a quiet kind of confusion. You're not falling apart, but something feels missing. The days blur, the spark fades, and when someone asks you what you want, you pause. A little too long. Not because there's nothing, but because you've forgotten how to answer the question. I can still picture myself running. I must have been 5 or 6 years old, my small hands clasped behind my back, body leaning forward, and legs moving as fast as they possibly could. The wind brushed past my ears, and in my mind, I wasn't just running. I was moments away from taking off. That's how fast I believed I was going. And of course, I had to run that fast because one day, obviously, I was going to be a runner, or an artist, or a fighter pilot. I had plenty of options as long as I didn't choose firefighter. Half my friends already had that one covered. As children, we all carry bold, imaginative dreams. One day, when I grow up, we say, and the sentence that follows is often filled with magic, impossibility, and genuine belief. It doesn't matter if the dream makes sense. What matters is that we feel it. Now, years later, I've quite literally grown up, and what remains from those early dreams are mostly my drawing skills. And yes, I did learn to fly at some point in my life, though never in the cockpit of a fighter jet. But that doesn't matter either, because fortunately, I kept dreaming long after childhood. I dreamt of becoming an entrepreneur, a painter, a writer, someone who builds small schools, a traveler, a partner, a husband, and more. Most of those dreams came true, and not because they magically appeared, but because I moved toward them with time, energy, and intention. Even the dreams that didn't work out left me with something meaningful, the experience of moving in their direction. But what if you've stopped dreaming altogether? What if life has made you so cautious, so tired, or so unsure that you no longer allow yourself to want something bigger? Maybe you've convinced yourself that dreams are for others, that you'll probably fail anyway, or that you don't have the discipline, or that you're too old, or maybe it's not even doubt. Maybe it's just the quiet resignation that it won't be worth the effort, that chasing something might hurt more than letting it go. So you stop chasing, and slowly, almost without noticing, you stop imagining. The moment you stop dreaming, something else begins to fade. You lose touch with the part of you that used to believe, not blindly, but playfully. That childlike voice in you that once thought, if I run just a little faster, maybe I'll lift off. It never expected to truly fly, and yet it still ran with everything it had. That same part of you knew what it was doing. It wasn't stupid. It just didn't care that it wasn't possible, because dreaming was never just about achieving. It was about aliveness, about movement, about imagining something different just because it felt good to do so. And when we stop listening to that voice, when we shut down the part of ourselves that dares to hope, dares to imagine, dares to feel awe, we lose more than dreams. We lose a sense of inner vitality, a quiet current of joy that doesn't come from goals or outcomes, but from the permission to wonder. And when that goes silent, life doesn't necessarily fall apart, but it gets dimmer, it becomes smaller. And over time, we forget what it felt like to want something, not because we needed it, but because it made us feel alive. And this is exactly what I encounter so often, not just in coaching, but in quiet conversations over coffee, or sometimes when someone unexpectedly opens up. It's not just people in their 50s or 60s. More and more often, it's people in their 20s, even younger. They're not cynical, they're not lazy, but something in them has gone quiet. That spark, the one that used to light up when they imagined something wild, something bold, something deeply theirs, feels faint now, not gone, just faint. It shows up in the words they use. I'd love to study, but I have a child now. That wouldn't be responsible. Or, because of my health, I need to be careful, so I mostly stay home. Or perhaps the one that lands heaviest of all. Since my partner left, I just don't see the point in anything anymore. And the thing is, I get it. I really do. These aren't just excuses. These are real situations, real pain, real exhaustion. The kind that settles into your bones and makes anything beyond survival feel like too much. But behind those sentences, behind the limitations and the quiet resignation, I often sense something else, a quieter question, one they're not sure they're allowed to ask anymore. Is it still safe to dream? And that's what it often comes down to. Not a lack of ambition, not even a lack of energy, but a fear that dreaming now would be foolish, that wanting more would be selfish, that allowing yourself to feel desire again, to be pulled towards something, would only lead to disappointment. And so they stop. They put the dreaming part of themselves on mute, not out of defeat, but out of protection, as if silence is safer than longing. But here's what I believe, and I believe it deeply. People don't need a strategy first. They don't need a step-by-step plan. They don't even need motivation. What they need is permission. Permission to want again, to imagine again, to feel that quiet flicker of maybe and not squash it, to follow curiosity, even if they're not sure where it leads, to admit even in a whisper that they want more. Not because they're ungrateful, but because they're alive. Because once that whisper returns, once you let it speak, the rest starts moving. Slowly, quietly, often clumsily at first, but it moves. And maybe that's all dreaming is. Not a promise, not a guarantee, not a final destination, but movement. The shift from stillness to reach, from surviving to exploring, from silence to wanting something again. And if you've ever felt that quiet ache, that gentle grief of not knowing what you want anymore, then let this be your reminder. It's not too late. You're not too tired. And your dreams? They might just be waiting for you to come back. But let's be honest, dreaming isn't about luck. It's not about meeting the perfect partner by accident, or suddenly being discovered, or winning the lottery just in time to travel the world. It's not about waking up at 50 and deciding, against all odds, that you'll now become a ballet dancer, even if your knees creak when you stand up. Those are fantasies, not dreams. Fantasies ask the world to deliver something to you. Dreams are different. They ask you to move. Because real dreaming, the kind that stirs something in you, doesn't come with glitter or applause. It comes with quiet recognition. It starts not with the external, but with the internal. Not with what would impress the world, but with what moves me, even when no one's watching. And maybe that's the kind of dream we've been taught to dismiss. The dream that doesn't come with a reward, but with a feeling. The one that makes you feel more alive, not more successful. More present, not more accomplished. It's not something you chase for approval. It's something you return to. Because it belongs to you. It's the part of you that lights up when you speak about something that matters. The part that feels like home when you're building, creating, helping, learning. Not for anyone else, not even necessarily with someone else, but simply because it touches something in you that's real. That's honest, That's yours. And that's what dreaming is really about. Not a goal, not a label, not a perfect story, but a thread connecting who you are now to what you're capable of becoming. Not because you must, but because something in you still wants to move. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Not to fly to the moon, but to remember you still know how to take off.